This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Sun soaked Monday morning, Minneapolis and St. Paul, 651 Carpets Plus Studios. It's Nordo in for PA. PA returning tomorrow, by the way, as we find our way down to Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center in Eagan. We're going to chat with the head coach, and we're going to finally get a freaking answer. Is it Carson or is it JJ? Or at least we'll get a vibe for how the week's going to go. And in the end, we're just going to have to wait and find some nuggets of intel via practice. But with that said, the hockey team, we are your home, not just for Vikings football, Gopher sports. I'll get to the TimberTech set list. The head coach, a homecoming W for the Gophers. He's going to join Parker Fox in the mix. Sky U Ma, maroon and gold faithful as he is. We're your home for wild hockey as well. The good times.
Power play is winding down for Minnesota. They're 8th of the evening. Booyam to the right side. A shot by Rossi. He scores! Kaprizov with the deflection. It's the 4th power play goal tonight for Minnesota.
We like that, but sadly, bad times as well.
Kaprizov kept it coming. Booyam, and he had it poked away by Coyle out the center. Foot race here. Coyle rolls it to the left side. Empty net. Boone Jenner. He scores. And it's 7 for Columbus. Boy, the Wild put in a lot of work in this hockey game, Tom Reed. Give them credit. Yep. They did not go quietly. But
Jeez, Joe. Okay, well, 7-4 is the final. Setting the scene from a ice tunnel standpoint and sideline access, locker room interviews, all of that from the television side of things. Kevin Gorg at Gorgamatic21 via X. How you doing this morning, Kevin?
Nordo, I'm doing great. Happy Monday to you. A little bonus tonight with some hockey on a Monday night, and certainly off that 5-0 win Saturday night could have been pretty spectacular, but the Blue Jackets had other plans. And, you know, you look back at that game, and it was super entertaining from a fan's perspective. Both teams came out, had a bunch of chances. I looked at the analytics this morning, and the expected goals for were 5-4 Minnesota. That doesn't tell the whole story.
Yeah.
You saw a lot of positives. That top line continues to dominate. The power play's off to a good start. See, William gets on the score sheet and scores his first NHL goal, but the bottom line is they gave up too much between Gus and some of the breakdowns defensively, some things to clean up into game number 3 of 82.
Yeah, certainly. You know, I was gonna ask you. You know, it's the first game at the Grand Casino Arena, but if we're gonna nickname it the slot machine, we can't be handing out 7s every night, right? It's just kind of a weird vibe to the first 2 games, Gorgie.
Well, and I think that's the elephant in the room. If you talk to the players throughout training camp like we did, and you were around last year, you know, they were one of the best road teams in the National Hockey League last year. That's the reason they made the postseason. Yeah. And we're so spoiled that we're used to this team, Nordo, being dominant in St. Paul, but they weren't last year. And they've all talked about needing to be a better team on home ice. In fact, I interviewed the captain, Jared Spurgeon, a couple hours before face-off on Saturday, and it's certainly something that is on their mind. And so that is a part of the storyline tonight as well. You don't want to start 0-2 at home. They've got a daunting 5-game road trip that starts in Dallas tomorrow night, and they've got to get back to being a better team on home ice.
Now, with that said, you mentioned the power play through 2. I think they had 4 in that game the other night, but 5 in total. You know, as a hockey fan, as a Wild fan, special teams have kind of been a talker and a concern at times over the last decade and a half or so. But what you've seen through 2, is there anything that jumped out at you? And it's like, it's early on. There's 82 of these things. No need to make mountains out of molehills. But this is kind of a positive, cool bit that I'm loving into tonight's game, specifically against the Kings.
Well, it starts with 97, right? When Kirill Kaprizov is playing at this level, and we did see this last year, and I think it's important to remind Wild fans that through the Christmas break last year, the team was 18-4-4, and Kirill Kaprizov was the betting favorite in all markets to be the MVP, to be the Hart Trophy winner. He drives this hockey team, and he certainly drives this power play, and you're looking at the way he is playing, setting the tone right now on the power play. They're winning puck battles. They're getting zone time. Certainly, Z. Boyum is a quarterback that's going to make this power play better. There's no doubt about it. But, you know, Boldy and Kaprizov, to me, have such good chemistry, and they're so good in tight spaces. to maintain possession, to not panic. I mean, Matt Boldy is a magician. Watch him on the half wall. Sometimes when there's one or two players around him, how patient he is with the puck, using his reach and his skill. And these guys have been fabulous. They're clicking it over 40%. A power play can be such a catalyst for good things. And if you get off to a fast start, sometimes you never look back.
I had never heard, and, Dean Evison on the other bench, of course, and, that connection to the Minnesota Wild. And Dean, all love and things aside, probably doesn't mind beating his former team. But this Elvis Cat net, nearly 50 saves. You got Marchenko with the Hattie last night. They came to play in St. Paul.
Well, you knew with Dean Evison that was going to be the case. And then you layer that with the fact that Columbus played a winning game at Nashville opening night. They put 39 pucks on the net. They had a goal called back. They lost a 2-1 hockey game. Dean Evison coming back, having a guy like Charlie Coyle, another former member of the Minnesota Wild that plays such a significant role. But Merzlikins was the story. I mean, when you pump in a franchise-high 52 shots on goal, you feel like you're likely going to win a hockey game. And, Minnesota was coming off that 5-0 win in St. Louis. I don't think that score was completely indicative of the way that game went. Philip Gustafsson was so good in period number 2. And if St. Louis scores in those first 12 minutes when they had the Wild on their heels and make it a 2-1 hockey game, that game probably ends up being quite a grinder. But Gustafsson was brilliant, and the Wild get off to that great start and win 5-0. But the psychology coming into that game on Saturday, certainly you knew Columbus was going to give you their best, and they did. And to their credit, they made some unbelievable plays. They've got a Kirill, too, and Marchenko had the hat trick. He's a 6'3" guy. He can move. He can shoot the puck. And the Wild were just a little bit too loose, Nordo, defensively, whether it was off the rush or in the zone. And certainly, I think if you're going to have success, not only tonight against the Kings, who are very stingy, but on this daunting road trip, it's the next 2 weeks. I know it's early, and again, we're just getting started. But these next 2 weeks are going to be a challenge.
How's Tarasenko look through too? He doesn't have to score them all right away, but just through a couple of games, just trying to think what does a career resurgence or a boost to the elder statesman's career look like wearing our colors? What'd you think of Vlad out there?
Well, certainly he's one of the players I'm focusing in on early in the season to see what kind of start he gets out to. And, we had a chance to talk to John Hines over the weekend and kind of set his expectations. And Hines has seen a thing or two, and he thinks there's no doubt this guy can score 20 to 25, which would be a huge shot in the arm for Minnesota. I thought he was just okay in St. Louis, going back to where he won that Stanley Cup for the first time. I thought he might have been just a little bit off in that game. I thought he was significantly better on Saturday night. His puck possession was good. Certainly a part of that power play, and a veteran that brings that type of poise to that situation. And so I like the way he played on Saturday, and they're going to need this guy with Matt Zuccarello out now for the first likely 6 to 8 weeks of the season. You've got to have more than one line pumping goals in, and that second line that Tarasenko is a big part of with Joel Eriksson Ek by his side. I still think the other side is a work in progress. Foligno's been solid, but I'm not sure that's a long-term solution. But Tarasenko, if you're a Wild fan, is certainly a player here in the early part of the season you want to focus in on, because he can be a bit of an X factor, Nordo. You know what you're going to get from that top line almost every single night, but they can't be asked to always carry the offensive workload. They've got to have supplementary scoring, and this is a guy, if he can score 20 to 25, could be a real key part of that.
No, that's sweet. That's Kevin Gorg, by the way, at Gorgomatic 21 via X. You'll see him and the entire FanDuel Sports North Network crew. Puck drop shortly after 7 o'clock tonight. If you are so inclined, you can hear the radio version of it as well, of course, with Joe O'Donnell and Tom Reed. 6:45 Fallness Festival, I believe, and then 7-ish puck drop again right here on the radio side of things. Hunter, I believe it's Hunter Haight or Height who made his debut.
It's Haight. It
is Haight. Okay, so Hunter Haight. And he, he's making his debut, plays. I mean, he probably played like 7 or 8 minutes in that game, but all the same, just excited about Nico Sturm coming in, all those face-offs. That's a position in need. Now you hear with the surgery, and you speak of Zuccarello's injury. Nico Sturm feels like a similar timeline. Are we just, early on, that kind of speaks to what you're talking about, not just needing guys like Tarasenko to step up and score goals, but just thinking about depth of what this looks like for Heinze in the short term.
Yeah, Hunter Haight had a terrific season last year. Remember, I think everybody knows that the Wild had a ton of injuries.
Yeah.
Well, with those injuries come a lot of call-ups from the Iowa Wild, so it was a depleted roster on the American League side, and this kid scored 20 goals, 67 games, a lot of times having to do it all by himself. He's got speed, he's got rink savvy, he's got certain skill, and he had an outstanding training camp. And, it's difficult. I felt bad for Hunter and his line mates on Saturday because when you have a game like Saturday with all those special team sequences on both sides of the ledger, that bench has to get shortened up, and they were the victims of that. When they played, I thought they brought some good juice, some good energy. They're not going to be asked to score a lot of goals. What they're going to be asked to do is bring some energy and go out there and play a responsible game. And so far, they've done that. I think we're going to see Danila Yurov at some point, whether it's tonight or tomorrow. They want to get him a chance in that same spot. I like the youth that they're trying to develop and let them do that slowly at that position. And not a lot of silver linings when you lose a guy like Nico Sturm. He's really going to be missed. I was so excited about that signing because Minnesota in the face-off circle and on the penalty kill needed a jolt like Nico Sturm. We're going to get him back. It's going to be like Zuccarello, as you mentioned, 6 to 8 weeks. So I think the Wild have a chance to really take off in the second half. But in the meantime, the silver lining is we get to see Hunter and we get to see Danila and see what they can do.
Absolutely. Kings in town tonight. For this one, you get to see Darcy Kemp. Do you fall in love with names at all, Gorgie? Like Darcy Kemper, Kevin Fiala's in town. I don't know how Kopitar's still doing it at 38, but he is. A few dimes so far through 3 games. They grind their way to a shootout win against Vegas, but they take that L. I think you mentioned it at the top, that they struggled against Scheifele and the Jets the other night. Do you get excited about kind of seeing some of those familiar faces and just kind of playing the matchup game in front of these contests?
Well, I like when the Kings are always a fun watch. And when I think of nicknames, I remember when Bruce Boudreau was our head coach, he'd call Darcy Kemper Pumps. And I used to get a big chuckle out of that. Kevin Fiala is always a player to watch. 35 goals last year. That was going back to that trade. Both teams, I think, got what they needed out of it.
Yeah.
Certainly, Brock Favors worked out pretty good on the Minnesota side, and Liam Ogren was the draft pick that they also garnered in that deal. But to me, that matchup with Drew Doughty and Kirill Kaprizov. Remember, Doughty was the guy that kind of spouted off during that COVID season when Kirill just first burst onto the scene, almost downplaying how good Kirill Kaprizov can be. And I wonder how Drew Doughty feels now that Kirill Kaprizov is the highest paid player in the league, and he's turned out to be the player that he certainly is. So that is always a matchup to watch. Doughty's tried to take some liberties, some cross checks, and some borderline dirty plays after the whistle against 97. So I'll be watching for that tonight when they're matched up together because certainly if the Wild get on the power play, they're going to see a lot of each other.
Hey, man, you're the absolute best. I appreciate you joining on short notice. Love all you do for us. Love all you do on TV. And we'll catch up again soon, my friend.
Always fun to chat, Nordo. Thank you.
Thank you. That's Kevin Gorg, FanDuel Sports Network North. I think I hit that right. You know where it's at. It's Channel 863 if you're via Comcast. And you get to watch him and all his interviewing and complimentary work as part of the TV broadcast with the Minnesota Wild. Wild hosting the Kings at Grand Casino Arena. So far, even, Brett, the difficulty that I've had, like J.J. McCarthy, we used to call Justin Jefferson J.J., but it's Jets. I still make the mistakes. Grand Casino Arena kind of feels fun. But we can't be handing out 7s every night.
No.
And I hope it's a different affair this evening. Puck drops shortly after 7 o'clock, and you can listen to it here on your home for Wild Hockey, the Fan. That does kick off the TimberTech set list. TimberTech.com bringing you the set list 9 to noon. You heard Gorgie. And later in the hour, Vikings had a bye. The hated rivals to the east did not. And they were victorious. So we're going to all have to take a deep breath on that. But Dave Sinykin and the weekly border battle will be around 9:45. We'll turn it to our favorite team with Pete Bursich at 10, thanks to Sukup Manufacturing. Heavy on the Vikes. What was he analyzing during the bye week? And what we're looking forward to with these Eagles in town on Sunday. Gophers, homecoming victors, 14-point swing in about 15 seconds as they get the fourth quarter touchdown against Purdue to tie it up. And then Coy Parrish with the pick six, putting the Boilermakers on ice. PJ Fleck's going to join us, along with Parker Fox. Parker Fox is going to be in studio to kick off the 11, may even have a question for the coach himself as well. So that's all brought to you. The set list brought to you by TimberTech, timbertech.com. Brett Blakemore produces. I'm Nordo in for PA on a Monday. And he also has a cash giveaway opportunity. Take it away, Brett.
The cash thing, the fan and two men in a junk truck want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. Keyword is Bills for this hour. Keyword Bills. KFAN.com. Enter the keyword Bills.
Ball.
Welcome back, 9:21, and it is part of 9 to noon. Nordo in for PA on a sun-soaked Monday morning. PA returning tomorrow for a very Vikings-heavy presentation at TCO Studios down in Eagan. Ben Gessling, I would imagine, is back in the mix, who covers the Vikings for the Star Tribune, and weekly X's and O's with head coach Kevin O'Connell. We do the live edition of it at 11 a.m. on Tuesdays. And maybe we'll throw some Vikes bites at him. I know we'll be doing a talk back of the morning. We like doing that. Coach enjoys it as well. Speaking of which, whether it's a text line, 64686, Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line, or it is indeed the talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app. Hit that microphone. Give us up to your best 30 seconds. We're open for business, 9 to noon. So please fire away at will. But it is time for Vikes Bites.
Vikes Bites.
Brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. And you can shop online. A box of meat will show up at your doorstep. You can go to your local Coburns and Kowalski's locations, your local co-ops. They're proud sponsors of Gophers Athletics. The actual guys in maroon and gold, guys and gals, they're eating Thousand Hills, the nutrient-dense beef that it is, regenerative agriculture. I don't know what that means, but it sounds important and it sounds good. The meat tastes delicious. That's what I do know. And thanks to Matt and everybody at Clearwater, Minnesota Company for their support. Where are we headed to first out of the bye week, Brett?
Vikes Bites. We'll head here, which is the talker that has kept the seasonal boost alive for basically the entire bye week, is who starts at quarterback. There's been plenty of opinions either way. Yeah. There's been diehard Carson Wentz oboes. There's been Mick oboes. Here's the last time we heard from Kevin O'Connell. It's been a minute. Here's what he was looking for from J.J. McCarthy coming out of the bye.
I think it's going to be the most critical part is going to be technique and fundamentals of playing the position the way he worked so hard to build up throughout the spring and the summer, getting him back into kind of the mandatory nature of certain things from a fundamental standpoint that will only help him perform at a high level.
Yeah, fundamentals. Not exactly what you want to hear.
What?
But it's still, there are plenty of people, and I'd say the majority from what I've seen are still in the camp of, let's see what the kids got, let's play JJ. What say you, Nordo?
Well, I would be, I'd be in that camp. Absolutely. We need to know. We have to know. Now that audio, if we are indeed, we're having footwork conversations and things, how much of that, by the way, the fundamentals, quote unquote, from the coach, and I'm sure this will come up tomorrow at TCO, and he can continue to elaborate on it at his own will. I'm sure part of it is the amount of pressure that he faced in those first two games, how many times he was put in spots where in that moment he has to buckle down and maintain those fundamentals. He's got to throw off platform. He has to maintain the footwork. Maybe there are fundamentals in relation to the decision-making, courage under fire, and making the right choice in various spots. And so I feel, from my standpoint, I feel like the fundamentals, even though the quote mentioning footwork and things, I believe there's probably a broader conversation behind the scenes about truly what that means in relation to J.J. McCarthy getting back onto the field. I still believe that it's truly an issue of health at this particular point. I was actually listening to the Power Trip Morning Show on my way into the studio. I think it was I think it was Lieber even talking about, hey, because the idea, Brett, you don't have to worry about this with your favorite team. I get it. Everything's beautiful with the green and gold right now.
Well,
but we're a team that's hurt, and we're a team that's trying to get healthy. So an idea that's been floated about, talked about is, well, if the offensive line isn't going to be fresh, isn't going to be healthy, we got the left tackle on a pitch count. Joe Huber playing left guard, who, by the way, all respect to Joe Huber, played pretty damn well against the Browns and won some pivotal reps that helped Carson, specifically on that game, the go-ahead drive and the touchdown to Addison. When we needed it, our line, for the most part, stood up. But you have Ryan Kelly on IR, which then brings you to Michael Juergens, who's hurt, and then that brings you to Blake Brandel, who is actually terrific at center for his first his debut at that spot. And it looks like it would be probably Blake Brandel, again this weekend against the Eagles, into Will Fries, into Justin School, or maybe Brian O'Neill. So the idea, well, they're not healthy, so you just can't put the kid out there because he's going to continue to be completely under siege all the time, and it's going to be a disaster. But Lieber was talking about, well, there is an element here because of J.J. McCarthy's athleticism. If the O-line persists to be a mash unit, then the escapability and the athleticism of J.J. McCarthy could win out. Now, that actually, you can weave it into a web where that's actually a pro in the camp of number 9. However, that brings me to the crux of this thing with health. Is he healthy? And I've seen a lot of reporting done on it in recent days, or at least some sort of speculation in some respects. I wouldn't say that Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network is a speculator. I think he kind of tells the story based on what is his well-researched and well-relationshiped intel brings him. That the situation is murky and that he may not be 100%. If J.J. McCarthy is not 100%, then McCarthy's not going to play this weekend. And it's kind of a commitment to the plan. Whether you're down in London and you need this victory over the Browns, but you hold so steadfast to the recovery plan of a Christian Darrisaw, you pull your freaking franchise left tackle because he's on a pitch count in that spot, that's a commitment, right? And I just think the commitment of what Kevin O'Connell has said in total, not just that clip. That clip matters. I'm just saying there's more to it. The fact is, from step one, I believe the one thing he's been definitive and consistent on, among the lack of being definitive and consistent in this conversation, where he has been pretty line level, is when he's fully healthy, he's coming back. And I'm just curious if the ankle's okay. Because escapability and all of those things is one thing, but if he re-injures that ankle, then that setback is even greater and potentially even more detrimental moving forward in the 2025. I saw, I can't remember who posted. I think it was somebody I follow on X, and I should remember this. I want to give the person credit, but it just kind of made me think as we look through this here. Yes, Dominique Claire is the person that posted this. But kind of the idea, when we look at J.J. McCarthy, we look at the 2 games he played. And the more that I look at those 2 games, the more that I factor in some offensive line ailing issues. I look at some functional things around J.J. McCarthy that lends to the lack of production. He also has to be better, by the way. But do you just do you just sum up J.J. McCarthy based on the 2 games that he has played? Or do you sum up from the time that you drafted him? Because availability is so pivotal to this conversation. I need him 100%. I need him back on the field. And I need this kid to stay on the freaking field. And it's not, this isn't an indictment of him as an individual. He can't help that he suffered the injury he did a year ago, but it matters. It factors in. And it's not his fault. He's trying to scramble, find his way to move the chains, gets tackled, twisted up with the ankle, and he's hurt again. You can't just drill down the 2 without drilling down the 17 and a playoff game last year, and now a total of 5, including 3 this season that he has missed. And presumably, again, I'm just speculating, I do believe, unless we see full participant, we see material movement taking place this practice week, that J.J. McCarthy is indeed back in the catbird seat. It does feel to me at this stage, if the ankle's not 100%, that it will be Carson this Sunday at noon against the Eagles. Which then you jump into, okay, so that would be a 6th game. So now we're talking 24 games, and he's been available for 2 of them. And then are they going to bring him back on a short week against the Chargers? We want rhythm. We want full practice weeks. Well, is he potentially going to miss that game, and then he gets the mini bye full week, I believe, against the Lions, and then comes back then? So we're talking 6-7 games potentially this season, and he's only been available for 2 of them. Which means 24, 25 games into his career, he's only been available for 2 of them. Which is something that you have to factor that in as part of the conversation is we need you available, dude. So I think that lends to, if you're talking about commitment to a development plan, if his ankle is not 100%, I believe that Kevin O'Connell would stick with Carson Wentz. And it feels to me at this very moment, at 9:30 on a Monday, subject to change. I think they're actually getting on the field today. Kind of shake it off, have a little fun Monday afternoon get-together post-bye. Maybe something will be gleaned from that. Although they practice in earnest on Wednesday, so it's not like it's full pads, full activity today. Unless something changes at 9:30 on a Monday, I would have to lean towards Carson being the starter. Still, 1,000-foot view, it's like I need the kid back on the field. I need him available. And I think the best route to make that happen and for the best possible chance of productivity down the line when he's back is to make sure that ankle is fully healthy. And it feels to me, I think that's how the team is viewing it at this moment as well. Now, if he is fully healthy this week, then we're going to see him against the Eagles on Sunday, and I'm excited. But he needs to be available, which means we need to fix this ankle thing. It needs to be good so he can be fundamentally sound based on that audio and be ready to rock when he is taking the field again.
Vikes bites.
Oh, that was long-winded.
That was a Vikes bite, that whole thing.
Really?
Yeah, that was it.
I apologize.
I do have more for you, believe it or not.
Oh, sweet.
A lot of tell me if you've heard this one before. You can use this. It's not about who you play, it's about when you play.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. The Eagles look terrible in the last couple games. They blow a double-digit lead at home to Denver and Bo Nix, and then get darted. Jackson Dart, Cam Scattaboo, just dominated start to finish in that game. Are you playing on Sunday? Are you playing A, a pissed off and motivated Eagles, or B, a vulnerable and defeated Eagles?
I'm scrambling via scores and odds. Eagles are 2.5-point favorites at U.S. Bank Stadium for the Big Nooner coming up this Sunday. Friday Feast is back as well at Buffalo Wild Wings on Friday. Looking forward to that. But the Eagles' biggest enemy is themselves. And it's kind of weird whether it's the bravado. There's a little bit of front runner to Sirianni, the coach. The Big Dom thing is it's just kind of a meme. It's an entire thing in itself. But I think getting over the hump, you have to respect, in the end, how Sirianni, maybe it's different but similar, where Mike Tomlin of the Steelers. Now, I know a lot of Steelers fans are ready to run him out of the town. They're bored with him. He wins the Super Bowl following the 2008 season. And sure, he's never had a losing record as a head coach. That's cool. So you're consistently in the mix. But other than losing to your favorite team, Brett, in 2010, the team really hasn't been sniffing Super Bowl opportunities. But this is a team wins it with Foles in 2017, and then they find their way back, of course, last season. 2 years ago, I believe they had gone as well, lost to the Chiefs 2 or 3 seasons ago. It's kind of every other. But this last year, we know they won it. They have the most talented roster in the NFL, but Tomlin managing those personalities and keeping that thing together despite the Antonio Brown-like Facebook living in a locker room during team conversation, just the weird oddities that took place. Martavis Bryant couldn't stop smoking weed and just other issues that were abound. Sirianni has to be the guy that figures out how to manage those things as well. Something is off with the offense. And they survived going from, I believe it was from Sinykin to Kellen Moore. I believe that was the immediate transition. There was a Sean Desai sighting on defense, but I think it was awful, so he was let go. We know Vic Fangio's there, but they were able to survive in some ways moving on from Shane Steichen. And Kellen Moore basically had spent half a decade putting together top offenses. He did it for Dallas, then he goes up to Philly. But now Kellen Moore is the head coach down in New Orleans. And being able to survive those constant changes. We talked about it, in a vacuum, just thinking about the Vikings for a second. Zimmer was the constant. But then whether it was Norv leaving in 2006, then you get Pat Shurmur, then you get in Kubiak into Kevin Stefanski, having to produce at a high level while constantly changing the voice, even if philosophically the offenses were mildly similar.
Game plan looks like.
What a highlight that is. Gosh, yeah. Matt Asiata, 25-yard touchdown. I think Castle would go on to throw 3 or 4 picks that game, playing at the College Stadium.
We're seeing what a sophisticated offensive game plan looks like. You talk about...
Yeah, and man, Norv 2016, weird Bears game. I think Jordan Howard got us for an absolute just haul on the ground. It was like a 20-3 game, and Norv quit. Norv left under mysterious circumstances. Weird. I just think trying to survive those changes, the offense doesn't look right. And AJ Brown, again, the cryptic. It's not Stephon Diggs level crypticness when he's speaking to the media, but it's close. And just something. But this is a team again that can just turn on a switch and get right. And this is a team that can just flip a switch and suddenly Saquon, against a team, by the way, in both their losses, the Vikings, who have had massive issues stopping the run, Saquon could go for 203 touchdowns on Sunday, and the Vikings lose by double digits. That could happen. But there's something that's disconnected right now specifically with whether it's Jalen Hurts and the offensive line, I think, is starting to finally, after it feels like just a decade of brilliance, I think there's some degradation that's taking place there. That might be an opportunity for the Vikings to feast on Sunday. But there's just something off about that offense. Trying to survive those coordinator changes, that's a curse of being good, right? Your team is constantly in Super Bowl contention, and teams are in the coaching carousel, and they will try to poach your coordinators. And I just don't know if it's off to a very good start on this particular season. But that doesn't, again, their biggest enemy is themselves. They can roll in here and put 40 on the Vikings this weekend. They can roll in and find new and unique and dumb ways to lose this game as well. I'm curious. I think Jalen Carter's dealing with something. I don't think he played this last weekend, so there may be a health component that plays into it as well. I haven't done a full deep dive of the Eagles, as I will do over the next couple of days as we continue talking about it when PA returns tomorrow 9 to noon. But their biggest enemy is themselves. And please don't make this the get right week. If they can just be awful and disjointed for one more week, Vikings get the W, and then they can turn it around, and we can revisit this conversation in January.
Well, one more?
Sure.
Vikes bites. Looking back at the Week 5 injury report, you have 6 players ruled out. A couple ruled questionable, but we don't talk about them. So Donovan Jackson, Michael Juergens, Ryan Kelly, J.J. McCarthy, Brian O'Neill, Andrew Van Ginkel. Out of those players, I would take out J.J. because we've talked about him. Is there a preference on who you would like to see come back 100%, whether it's the offensive line struggling or if it is some of the defensive players, like we still want to see Cashman, still want to see Van Ginkel? Is there a preference on who you want to see healthy out of the bye?
Well, the guy that I would prefer most to come back is also the guy that I'm the most worried about. That's Van Ginkel and this neck thing. Mm-hmm. And there are some positive things that you can look at and say in the time now, the massive amount of reps that have increased for Dallas Turner. There are certainly some positive things. I don't think that consistently has enough pop as a pass rusher. And I've seen him with that speed and that athleticism make some terrific plays, specifically to the boundary, some chase downs, a couple of TFLs. But I think you can also kind of run at him once in a while. And if he can't get off the block, that's a massive problem. So Van Ginkel's the guy that I would definitely most want to have back. Just the all-around game of Andrew Van Ginkel matters and is vital to this defense. So I would say him. Cashman certainly is right up there. And that's specific on the defense. So just solidifying, run stopping, all of those things. His entire game matters to this defense immensely as well. But I'm just, I guess, Donovan Jackson, from my standpoint, is a home run draft selection, and I'm excited to see him get more run and continue to grow. And seeing him back on the field on Sunday against the Eagles, if it happens, would just be awesome for the kid. Again, it's just one of those things. We've had conversations about the GM and the drafting and all of that, and it has to be better. But I think he hit a home run with Donovan Jackson. So I want to see him healthy, at least recovered post-surgery from this wrist thing. And I want to see him out there. I'm just excited for him to continue to grow. I think we really could have, we potentially stumbled on a guy that's just truly plug and play for a decade at left guard. He's a man mover. He's good in pass pro. Just a fantastic player. And it'll be fun to see him back if he is. That's Vikes Bites. Thank you for doing that, Brett. And, of course, shout out assistant producer Kevin. We're almost overstaffed today. Feels weird we got all kinds of people hanging out here today. It's awesome. It's a party, 9 to noon. It won't be a party in some respects, but we will talk about the Green Bay Packers next segment. Yeah, border battle with Dave Sinykin is around the corner. Catch up with them. They beat the Bungles, and we will discuss all of that as we inch closer to the 10 a.m. hour. We'll bounce back to the purple with Pete Bursich. Looking forward to that. It's the Fan. The cool thing about playing real music 9 to noon is that it has to be cut from the podcast. So first, I'd like to apologize to the Vikings loving fan base who are listening right now, but I need you to bear with me because that audio bit that you just heard will be removed from the record and will not be podcasted. I
had like 2 more highlights. I had a LaFleur sounder. I was going to make a whole montage out of it.
No, I don't want to do that. Joining me now is not just the co-host of In the Zone with Trent Tucker Saturday mornings. He also does Packer Preview, of course, on these airwaves. And with the Gophers basically playing in prime time every week now, you get to hear it at least at a reasonable hour. But then now they do, and I believe you're part of this, Brett, Packer Review. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is accurate, Nordo. Good morning. We've already posted this week's edition. It's available on the iHeart app. Just search Packer Preview, and you will find it there. Good morning.
Well, good morning, and of course, I would just forward on. It's on the free iHeart Radio app. I just let our sales staff know that it's also there, and they can take a peek at it if so inclined. Sponsorships are available, I believe.
Exactly, that's for sure.
Sinykin, if your team had lost to Joe Flacco twice in the same season, would you have just canceled Packer Review, Preview, or any of it and just said, see y'all in 2026?
Well, maybe, but part of me would have said it would have been kind of meaty to do Packer Review after games like that and the chance to whine and moan and complain. But, yeah, it wasn't going to win a lot of style points. It wasn't pretty, but ultimately they got the job done.
What do you think of was this? And I mean, it's just 3 catches and 80-some yards. But the Matthew Golden, was this a game where you can look back and you can say, okay, draft pick came along, saw him in a couple of run block situations. The kid's got talent, and he had a couple of nice plays yesterday against Cincy. Would you look at this as kind of that moment where, aha, our first-round pick is showing a nice pulse?
I think maybe yes, only because 2 of those 3 catches, and he had 86 yards, I think, on 3 catches.
Yeah.
2 of them were of the 30-yard variety on 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 10. And the second one, final 2.5 minutes of the game, Flacco has just hit Jamar Chase for a touchdown, a 2-point conversion. It's suddenly a 1-score game, and a game that it looked like the Packers had dominated for 57. It felt like Cleveland all over again. 3rd and 9, Love is being chased. He's rolling left and just uncorks a gorgeous throw to Golden, who got loose. And 30-some yards later, they're in field goal range, and we could kind of exhale. So the plays he made were really big. He's also being featured in the running game. He had a couple of rushing attempts. So Yeah, it's starting to come together. They're starting to get some confidence with him. He's never going to be a fantasy superstar. That's not how the Packers roll. But he's got the speed that no one else on the Packers have, while Christian Watson's on the sideline, and it made a difference yesterday.
With the QB, just do you feel like this? If LaFleur had the ability to call just the perfect game, his ideal game, do you think it was a little bit like yesterday where you're able to run the heck out of it? You got north of $150 on those bungles. And I know it was kind of bad luck. I thought the pick that Jordan Love threw was tipped, or at least it was misdirected somehow, or maybe it was an awful pass. You tell me. But overall, just not limiting the mistakes or limiting the imperfections or even trying to limit the QB, but just run the heck out of it and then just let Jordan pick his spots to make plays.
Yeah, that's the MO. That's the Shanahan school that LaFleur comes from. They want to be a run-first team. And, Jacobs had said all last week that it's always taken him 3-4 games for the running game to get going. And, he was sick all day, like sick as a dog yesterday. He was mic'd up, but they couldn't play anything because he was vomiting all day. And he still looked like himself. And it also, Vikings understand this too. When you don't have your linemen out there, the offense doesn't seem to fire on all cylinders. And the Packers finally had all 5 preferred starters out there yesterday, and it made a difference. They actually moved Jordan Morgan in to replace Sean Ryan at right guard, and the running attack was better for it. So that's the MO. Run the ball. It opens up everything else. Jacobs also caught 5 balls for 50-some yards, so he's being featured even more in the passing game. But, yes, that's the kind of game LaFleur wants to call. Sprinkle the ball around to a bunch of different receivers, and I think Green Bay scored every time they touched the ball in the second half. They just only had 3 possessions because, the defense holds Cincinnati, Nordo, to 65 yards in the first half. Yeah. I mean, we're talking 1 first down in their first 4 drives. It was nothing. Then they come out in the second half, 10.5-minute drive, 78 yards. Suddenly it's 10-7. Green Bay has the ball, and we're late in the third quarter. It just was so weird that the defense just looks like a different unit in the second half. They couldn't stop Cincinnati after halftime. And that's a concern because that happened in Dallas too. So coming out of the game, no concerns about the offense, but what's going on with the defense and what happens at halftime that turns them into an entirely different unit.
Yeah, and I was kind of curious, and I wanted to ask you, just 10,000-foot view, of course, from my perspective. I don't dig that deep. I root for all of your opponents to beat you. That's kind of how I look at it. But when I see the 65 yards at half, I'm thinking, okay, just retire now, Flacco. Browning, at least, he throws it to the other team, but once in a while he throws it to his own too, and he provides maybe a little more spark. They stuck with Flacco, but there was kind of that massive sea change. And of course you have the shootout against Dak and the Cowboys. So it's not like, I'm not trying to say Hafley's bunch in your defense. It's not like midnight strikes and you turn back into a pumpkin. I'm just curious from your perspective if there are anything that is standing out to you as to whether it's the second half or just Dallas and Pickens and company, just you couldn't stop them to save your freaking lives. What you're seeing that's maybe a regression of sorts from the early season. Wow, we're on to something here.
Yeah, the only personnel situation is Devontae Wyatt's out. And since he went out second quarter of the Dallas game, the defense has kind of looked different. But I just think it's the way teams realize they have to attack the Packers defense. It's kind of like what the Steelers did to the Vikings, right? Just snap the ball to Rodgers and get rid of the ball within 2 seconds. And that's what Dak did in the second half. That's what Flacco did in the second half. He just 2 steps, ball out, and didn't allow the pass rush to get to him, which is smart because they don't have an offensive line, so they had to do that. So Green Bay is going to have to figure out, when teams are attacking you that way, how do you make them pay? Because right now they haven't figured it out. I still think it's a really talented defense. They haven't made splash plays. They only had 1 sack. They only have 2 turnovers all season, complete opposite of what they did last year. You think those will come.
Yeah.
I thought they would come yesterday. They didn't. So still think it's a talented unit. But teams are making adjustments, and Hafley's going to have to make some counter moves.
Yeah, I don't know. When it comes to those turnovers, man, that's kind of hitting me hard right now with the Vikings because that was a trademark, tied to top the league yet last year. 33, 34 turnovers, takeaways, something like that. This time around, they get the 5 spot against Browning and these bungles that you guys just saw. No takes in the last 2 games, only 1 apiece in the first 2. So kind of a lopsided stat nature that speaks to the the inability for you to rely on those splash plays. You got to make them, and something's off with my team too, man. It's been trouble through the first month and a half.
Yeah, last year Xavier McKinney had picks in the first 6 games.
Well, except for the one at Lambeau, though. That Lambeau one didn't count, Dave.
Well, they counted it. I'm not sure why they counted it. You're right. That one probably should not have stood. But, yeah, both of our teams are kind of head-scratching that way. I mean, this was a real focus. We heard about it all summer with Hafley's defense was punch the ball out, get the ball out. They haven't recovered a fumble yet this season. They have 2 picks. Again, that might change, but it's a concern because right now we don't know about Arizona, who their quarterback will be, but it's going to get a lot trickier when they start facing quarterbacks that can beat you, like, Dak certainly could, and Flacco's savvy enough to beat anybody. Look, they're the favorites right now after week 6 to come out of the NFC and represent them in the Super Bowl. They're the top seed at 3-1-1. They're the number 2 seed in the NFC. They're atop the North. We should feel good about all that, but when you're beating a team that's 30th in defense and terrible on offense, and it's still a struggle with 2 minutes left, it has you a little bit worried.
Yeah, that tie, though. I mean, that tie, and you're 3-1-1, as you mentioned. You're getting an absolute, and every time I say this, Dave, there's like 2 Packers fans that listen all the time, and we appreciate and love them for it, but they get so mad, and they explain to me there's no way that the NFL would actually rig the scheduling system in favor of the Packers. But, I mean, talk about this layup with Arizona right around the corner. Can it get any easier for you guys? I mean, at this stage, your Packer preview will be trying to decide who the obscure, let's just call it Dontavian Wicks. He'll be the one after Love throws a pick and the defender immediately freaking fumbles it, and then somebody kicks it into the end zone. Dontavian Wicks, that's how he will get a touchdown this weekend. It's going to be that easy against the Cardinals.
Now, he injured his ankle Sunday. I'm not sure he's going to play. So you may have to find another receiver to use in your little analogy.
Right,
but I don't know.
Golden, then. That's fine.
I watched Arizona go on the road and have Indy beat, basically, in the fourth quarter with a backup quarterback before losing that game. Arizona is not a punching bag, even without Kyler Murray. They get a decent defense. But you're right. I mean, the Packers, as we sit here today, are 6.5-point favorites to go on the road and win that game. But I've seen Green Bay on the road twice this year, and I've been underwhelmed. So until they go on the road and stomp a team they should beat, I'm not going to get too cocky just yet.
I'd be concerned if they traded for Joe Flacco. Since Kyler Murray is out, we'd have to play Joe a third time. That would be.
You can't rule it out.
Yeah,
you cannot rule that out. That might happen.
If you go 1-2 against Flacco, oh my goodness, just shut her down. That's crazy. Thanks for your time, my friend, and I hope if you're available, we can chat next Monday.
I will be here. Look forward to it.
That's terrific. That's Dave Sinykin. Whether it's In the Zone, it's Packer Preview. They have the Packer Review podcast. He and Brett Blakemore breaking down, in this case, the newest episode, of course, their victory over Flacco and the Bungles at Lambeau Field. Hope they lose at Arizona this weekend. Couple on the road. Whew. Yeah, couple on the road. Who's it after? Who's it after the Cards? Is it Philly? And then
it's going to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood in Pittsburgh.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Wow, that's going to be fun. And then the next week, hey, Carolina Panthers, no bargain.
They're frisky.
Rico Dowdle running all over people. Who'd have thunk it? But you can check out the Packer Review podcast, if you're a Packers fan, that is, via the free iHeartRadio app. But I got a text. I can't read it because it's vulgar. What are we doing here? This is Minnesota. I agree. Random texter. Back to the Vikings and Pete Bursich next as we kick off the 10 a.m. hour Vikings conversation, 9 to noon on the Fan.